If Israel does, in fact, decide on a military answer, Sabrina, will the U.S. support Israel in that mission?
Well, thanks so much for having me on today. Look, that's really a decision that Israel has to make. Why our U.S. forces are in the Middle East right now. We have our enduring mission that exists in Syria and Iraq to ensure the enduring defeat of ISIS. But we're also in the Middle East right after October 7th. The secretary, the president, made the decision to surge assets into the region to send a message that we want to deter actors who want to take advantage of what happened in October 7th. We do not want to see this war that's happening in Israel, happening in Gaza, widen out to a regional conflict. So that's why we have our assets in the region. And exactly as you said, those assets over the weekend were able to knit together an incredibly strong response in our air defense with the IDF and with other partner nations to knock down some 300 drones and ballistic and cruise missiles that were shot in the direction of Israel. So we are really proud of our efforts and what we were able to accomplish over the weekend.
Well, by all means, and if there is, in fact, a military response, then the U.S. is not saying publicly that it will support Israel either through the military operations or by sharing intelligence in that mission. Is that safe to say then?
Yeah, I just don't have anything for you on that. That's really a decision that Israel's going to have to make. What I can tell you and what we've expressed both publicly and privately in the secretary's calls with his counterpart, Minister Gallant, and in other calls throughout this department and really the administration is that we do not want to see a wider regional conflict. And we, the United States, does not seek war with Iran.
Pretty remarkable to see the results on Saturday night. And there has been this refrain that we've heard, Sabrina, I'm sure you've heard this as well, that Iran might not have tried this if it thought it could, in fact, more effectively penetrate Israel's air defenses. This is something that John Kirby talked about today at the White House National Security Council spokesman. Let's listen to what he said, and we'll have you respond. Here's John Kirby.
I've seen reporting that the Iranians meant to fail, that this spectacular and embarrassing failure was all by design. I've also seen Iran say that they provided early warning to help Israel prepare its defenses and limit any potential damage. All of this is categorically false. To coin the phrase from the president, or still a phrase from the president, it's malarkey.
If it was not meant to fail, then, Sabrina, did the U.S. have confidence that it would be able to knock down that many missiles and rockets, or did we learn something about our capability this past weekend?
Well, look, you can never predict as an operation starts or is ongoing how successful it will be. But what you saw is the capability of our forces, and especially our forces united together. You saw the IDF, U.S. forces, the UK, France, other partners join in together in the self-defense of Israel. That really speaks volumes to our alliance there and our Ironclad commitment to Israel. And look, we were successful. We were able to knock down 99% of what Iran lobbed towards Israel. And that really is a true testament to our own military capabilities and Iran's failures. And I think to what John Kirby was speaking to at the podium at the White House is Iran right now sees its failures, and they're trying to spin this and use their propaganda machine to try and sell this to their people that this was a success. And the reality is that there was no damage to infrastructure. We are still assessing what we were able to do, but the fact is that we demonstrated tremendous success on Saturday, and that is an incredible victory for Israel and for the United States.
Well, it's a question of whether that success is a deterrent in itself. And I talked today with Alex Vatankos, the Middle East Institute's director of the Iran program. He spoke with us on the earlier edition of Balance of Power about that very issue. Sabrina, here's what he told us.
They don't feel if they get into a conflict with Israel, then that's the end of it. They feel that a conflict with Israel means a conflict with the United States. And in many ways, they're right in thinking that. That is their position. And they don't dare. You can put another 1,000 sanctions on the Islamic Republic. They wouldn't blink. But you start seriously talking about the use of the United States military against Iran, that's when they're going to really seriously back away.
Sabrina Singh, you've said a couple of times now that it is up to Israel the course that it's going to take here, and I completely understand that. But would Iran be correct, as we just heard from Alex, to assume that the United States will always be behind Israel?
Well, you've heard the president say it very publicly that our commitment to Israel is ironclad. But that means in its self-defense as well. And that's what you saw over the weekend. That's what you saw us engage in when we had tremendous air power up there in the skies and, of course, our destroyers out in the eastern Mediterranean. And when we say our commitment to Israel is ironclad, that also means supporting them and with our military assistance, the security assistance that they need in their ongoing fight with Hamas, which is still operating in Gaza. And that also means the U.S. commitment to making sure that humanitarian aid is getting into Gaza. So when we say our commitment to Israel is ironclad, that means that it has broad ramifications for exactly the security assistance that we provide, but also the humanitarian assistance that we are providing to the Palestinian people, who we know are in desperate and dire need of that assistance in Gaza right now.
I know our commander of U.S. Central Command, General Eric Kurilla, was sent to Israel in advance of this operation. Sabrina, is he still there, or do we have a similar authority on the ground in Israel to work with them through the next steps?
Well, General Kurilla was always scheduled to travel to the region. As you just mentioned, he is the commander of the Central Command area of responsibility. He did move up his travel as, you know, tensions are rising, and he wanted to ensure that while we stand with Israel, we also have partners in the region. We have our forces in the region, so giving them a show of support as well. So it was important for him to be there. I believe he's still traveling through the region, meeting with his counterparts as well. That's not unusual, and that's something that we certainly are glad that he's on the ground. I think what his priority is also focused on is making sure that we're getting that floating pier up and running into Gaza that will help get humanitarian aid and really flood the zone in from a different point of entry into Gaza. So that's something that I know he's also focused on while he's in the region.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sabrina. I know that's a military operation. Is that something you can give us an update on in terms of timing? Are you making progress on that pier?
We are making progress. We will be working. We hope to be set up and fully operational by the end of April, early May. That's about the timeline that we set up from the very beginning. I think about 60 days from when the president announced it at the State of the Union. So we feel confident in that timeline. And look, if anything were to slide a little bit, we would certainly keep you and your viewers updated on that. But it is a priority of this department to make sure that we get that floating pier set up so that we can get trucks moving in, coming into Gaza. And of course, we've also reiterated with the Israelis that they need to open those land routes. They need to make sure that aid can flow in from Ashdod and other places so we can flood the zone in Gaza. We just cannot see this humanitarian situation get worse. We know that Hamas continues to operate within Gaza. They do have brigades in Rafah, but right now what we need to focus on is making sure that people aren't going and starving. And so one of the things that you're seeing the military do is helping with those humanitarian efforts, and hopefully we'll have that pier underway in the next few weeks.